forge the foundations of a galaxy-spanning empire. This is Sins of a Solar Empire 2. The opening few minutes of every Sins of a Solar Empire 2 game are crucial, involving many important choices. The decisions you make here have far-reaching consequences, and will determine your approach to conquering the game map as the war progresses later on. We've covered these early game choices and some important principles that underlie the thought process behind planning your strategy in the first video in this tutorial mini-series. As we move towards the end of that first 15 minutes, the options available to you, both tactical and strategic, open up in myriad fashion. In this video, we'll continue where we left off in the previous episode, expanding our burgeoning empire out into the galaxy. We'll need to continually ramp up our economic output if we're to succeed as we continue our game. Grab efficient crystal sorting and head to the next lightly defended asteroid at Hakuba, remembering to get your Akan up front, and using the radiation bomb to speed things up. Kill any siege frigates, then colonise it and mop up those last defenders. Immediately build up commerce and mining at least one level for increased resources, and logistics so we can build civilian orbital structures. Hakuba's proximity to our nearest neighbour, the Vasari Exodus force known as Slave Car Magistra, makes it a target for raids. We're researching Stardock, and so building a civic research station will give us some warning if an enemy fleet moves in. We can't afford it now, but we should plan some defences here soon. Looking to plan our next moves, there's a valuable ice planet named Danai, one jump away from Hakuba. This planet will be valuable because of its excellent access to crystal, and with 5 phase lane connections is also an important strategic asset. Even better, it has the porous core planet bonus, meaning a smaller gravity well and thus far easier to defend with static orbital defensive systems. We must control it. Checking its neighbours, we see there are no pirates close by, and so we can safely take it with our first fleet. But this will leave the asteroid and volcanic planet close to our homeworld very far away from that first fleet. Since we're expanding well and we've not taken any losses, we can afford to build a second expansion fleet designated Gamma Fleet. Create a new empty fleet in the hotbar and then queue up a Protev colony frigate. And as soon as possible, build it an escort of 5 Cobalt light frigates too. With a second expansion fleet we can conquer twice as much territory, although it will require more frigates and corvettes because it has no capital ship attached. We'll queue up some Shriken gunship corvettes as we go, to use some of the crystal we've accumulated, providing this smaller second fleet with a useful screen against enemy frigates. Research advanced metallurgy, increasing the armour of all our ships, then send Alpha Fleet over to Danai. We might consider building an armour patch kit on the way, as the defending fleet there is a lot stronger than before, and we don't want to lose any frigates. Without a shipyard, the armour patch kit will take a longer time to build, but it could be worth the wait. As they traverse the phase lanes to Danai, head over to the civilian research and grab Arctic colonisation. Winning the battle for Danai without sustaining heavy losses will require careful manoeuvring of our capital ship to soak up damage. By now, Alpha Fleet is substantial and fields several Shriken to screen enemy frigates, but we'll use the second radiation bomb on large groups of ships to weaken them further. We'll take out enough of the Cobalt frigates and Javelin missile cruisers to secure the safety of our fleet, then destroy the Krosov siege frigates. Once they're gone, we colonise Danai and start to build up its commerce and mining tracts to further boost our economic output. Let's wait for all 5 Cobalt light frigates to leave berth before sending Gamma Fleet off to take the asteroid at Phrathi. Without a capital ship to guard them, casualties are much more likely. As we arrive, we see there's a Javelin missile cruiser guarding a derelict. We quickly manoeuvre our ships to the far side of the gravity well, out of its range, and engage the defences as usual. While Gamma Fleet engages in its first battle, Danai should be ours. Gamma Fleet should be able to handle the planets behind our homeworld, so Alpha Fleet is now free for another mission. Looking around, we see the Jisken hold Chodots, and should be considered off limits for now. There's a wormhole at Asmar Tunnel, but that's not much use to us now, so we can ignore it for the time being. Just one jump from Danai, there's an extremely valuable Terran planet named Kudara with a massive pure glaciers planet bonus, which grants it a large commerce credit income bonus. We'll want this for sure, but our scouts report 3 Harker heavy cruisers and 3 Javelin missile cruisers, a deadly combo for our fleet. Taking this magnificent planet so early might be a little greedy, as we'd probably sustain losses, and it's highly likely Hakuba will come under attack by the Slave Car Magistra. so we're going to need Alpha Fleet in good shape to meet that assault head on as and when it occurs. Leaving Kudara for later, Alpha Fleet heads back to Hook Harbour, while we build the defence track up and start building turrets and a retrofit bay, all of which will help to ensure our defending Alpha Fleet will be very difficult to defeat if the Visari Exodus initiate a raid or invasion. At Danai and Garumna here, we'll upgrade our logistics track and build one civic research station at each, increasing our Sidar coverage and satisfying the civilian research point requisite of 4 to grab the next tier, Civilian 2, which will open up more advanced economic research options. We mustn't forget our influence points. This resource is generated over time to a maximum limit set by the current influence technology. In our case it's mercantile envoys. Influence can be spent to find and unlock favours with the game's minor factions. These smaller independent AI players do not compete for complete dominance of the sector, but will ally themselves with anybody willing to grease their purses with influence, unlocking access to various abilities across 4 tiers, with each tier requiring more influence to unlock. The minor factions also have their own unique AI behaviour. The pirates will attack adjacent worlds. The Aluxian Resurgence will attempt to gain control of colonies in their localised area, and more. We've discovered 3 minor factions in this game: the Jiskun Expeditionary Force, Viterak Transport Cabal, and Pranast United. Let's purchase Reputation Level 1 from Defensive Technology Specialists Pranast United, and unlock Emergency Gauss Platform. As soon as we have the influence for it, we'll grab one of these and place it around Hakuba. Our next battles will likely involve a lot of incoming missiles. We'll research Garda Unlock as our anti-missile solution, and then as soon as those civic research stations are up, we'll grab Civilian 2 as planned, and then Orbital Commerce to gain access to the valuable trade port orbital structure. While Gamma Fleet colonises Wraithy and finishes off its defenders, let's have a look around our colonies for the Tauronite and Endurium exotics found via survey. At some point soon, we're going to need a second capital ship. A Col battleship is rarely a bad investment, and requires both Tauronite and Endurium. We develop commerce and mining at Wraithy, and prepare to upgrade logistics so we can build another civic research station for Sidar. If another empire sends fleets from Jacobi here, Wraithy will be the last line of defence before our homeworld, and we'll need fortifications to assist in defending our back lines. As the game closes in on the 15-minute mark, we'll tie up a few loose ends before we finish this tutorial. Build some Garda flak frigates from both fleets, and if there are any credits and metal available, it won't hurt to build more Cobalt light frigates too. If metal is scarce, consider buying some for credits at the Pranast United controlled metal markets. Finally, grab volcanic colonisation ready for when Gamma Fleet captures Utopia here, and we can pause the game and bask in the glory of all we have achieved in such a short space of time. Taking stock of our achievements, we've now got 3 partially developed asteroids under our control, an extremely valuable ice planet at Danai which allows us to control and strike into a large part of the game map, and we're about to take a volcanic planet for a massive metal income boost too. We've got a reasonably strong credit income for this point of the game, with around 5 metal and crystal per second and immediate access to technologies that boost all 3. This cements our industrial and economic position, and will provide us adequate resources to continue to expand our empire in rapid fashion. Perhaps most importantly, we have 2 fighting fit fleets, which have been gaining experience fighting neutral defenders and have not suffered significant casualties, ensuring that if our new territory is attacked, we've got plenty of ships to defend with. We'll want to dramatically increase the size of these fleets going forwards from here, and start looking towards researching cruisers to take our military to the next level. Here's one important point to note. Be aware that in some games it may be more advantageous and safe to develop military research to the second tier before civilian research. You'll have to make that call depending on the proximity, aggression and strength of your neighbours, and the fleet supply size of Guardian fleets surrounding the colonies you're hoping to acquire. Generally speaking though, if it's safe to do so, your economic development should come first. Just ensure you have a military strong enough to defend it. Before we finish, here are some important points to consider as we move on from this first 15 minutes. At some point between the 15 and 30 minute mark, you're likely to bump into an enemy fleet while you're expanding, either contesting a neutral gravity well or attempting to steal one of your newly colonised worlds. It is imperative that you regularly build scouts and deploy them into your enemy's territory to probe their positions and forewarn of any raids or invasions they might be initiating. The Visari are particularly ferocious and tenacious raiders, even with very small fleets, so be warned. If there's a hostile neighbour close by, consider fortifying a choke point with orbital structures, station military vessels there and plan for a starbase too. Your fleets will have a much better chance of repelling an invasion by a larger or more advanced enemy fleet if they're well supported by defensive weapon systems and extra ships. The TEC can eventually build special garrison fleets to help here. Capital ships are the most powerful ships you'll have access to at this point of the game, and you must plan to build more of them as early as possible. They require exotic resources, and the best place to find those in the early game is through survey. Different planet types give guaranteed exotics, while asteroids tend to only give a chance at a variety of different exotics. If you want a specific capital ship, survey the colonies with the best chances of giving you what you want and ensure you save up enough resources to build it. You'll need at least a second capital ship for your first major engagement, and preferably a third or more too. The computer control players will build new capital ships early, and you must match them if you want to stay competitive in the game. And don't forget to support your capital ships, frigates and corvettes with more specialised cruisers as soon as you can. Remember, you can steal enemy cruisers in the early game using the boarding crew item purchased from the pirate miner faction. At this point of the game, you'll have a better idea of who will be a threat to your empire and whether or not you'll want to fight them or send a ceasefire agreement, in the hope of better relations. You can't always fight everybody, and careful diplomacy is critical in plotting your path to victory. We hope this tutorial helps you develop your early game and gives you an idea of how to examine and approach the rest of your campaign too. Now, go forth and destroy your enemies.